An updated dashboard is a function of how often you refresh it to capture latest data from the data source. Hello people, my name is Kingsley, your data buddy. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we will be working on data freshness in Looker Studio. As a data analyst, it's important you ensure that your dashboard is up to date. And to ensure that your dashboard is up to date, it's important you refresh it or you set out a parameter for refresh depending on the refresh interval you want. This is what we're going to discuss in today's video. And you know how we do it? Let's hop into my computer and I'll walk you through how to refresh your dashboard in Looker Studio. We're here on Looker Studio interface. This is the landing page, especially when you are logged in. Now, we want to work on data source freshness, how fresh your data source is and how often it actually needs to refresh. Whenever you're working with your data, whenever you're building reports, mostly you work on historical data. So what that means is that the data you work with last week, it's likely going to update the succeeding week. So because it updates, every BI application has its unique way of bringing in new data into the existing data set. That is more like refreshing the data to update the existing data set in the report. So the same way, Looker Studio also has its set out rules on how to maintain data freshness, on how to update existing data so that the report in turn will also be updated. Now, Looker Studio does it for different data sources. It doesn't have one rule for all data sources. Looker Studio has a set out rule for every data source. So there is a rule for flat files like CSV, TSV. There is also different rule for BigQuery data, SQL data, Google Analytics data, and some other data sources. They have different rules, and these rules are not far-fetched. We will go through all these rules, and it's going to be so clear. You're going to know how to maintain the freshness of your data or how often your data should refresh. So let's go in. As we've always done, whenever we want to work on our data source, we come into data sources. Here you will find all the active data sources you have connected to or you are working with. So let's start with the first data source, the customer's data. All right, so I'll click on it. So this is the customer's data. When you come to the left, you will see refresh fields. This is where you manually refresh your data set. Whenever there is a new update on the data source, you come in here and refresh. Whatever that has been added will update in your data set and will in turn update in your report. By the left, you will see the number of fields that your data set has. Let's move up here. You will notice data freshness, 12 hours. So this is telling us that by default, CSV data, flat files are refreshed every 12 hours in Looker Studio. Looker Studio refreshes every flat file imported into it every 12 hours. Now, to know if there is any other option aside the 12 hours, all we need to do is to click here. Here it's stated, this data source checks for fresh data every 12 hours. You don't actually need to do anything. Looker Studio will handle it. That's the only option given to us for flat file. It can only refresh every 12 hours. So that's it for CSV file. I'm going to close this. Let's go back and try other data sets and see how they refresh. I'll click here to return to the data sources. We are done with customers data set. Let's move to the next one. This is Home Health Agency. This is a public data set from BigQuery. So let's click on it. I connected it from BigQuery. Now let's go again. By default, it's showing us 12 hours, but let's click on it. Wow, we have other refresh time for this particular data set. Up here, you will notice the sign is the BigQuery sign. Unlike the other one that shows that it's actually a flat file. So it's a BigQuery file. It's coming from BigQuery. You can see the logo here. And it says we can refresh every 15 minutes, every hour, every 4 hours, and the default is every 12 hours. Those are how you can refresh. However, if you're not comfortable with what you have here, you can actually come here, click on custom to create how often you want to refresh. And with BigQuery, the beauty of using BigQuery in Looker Studio is that you can actually create this concept of real-time analytics, real-time report with when your data is in BigQuery. That is why you have this custom report. So you want to have real-time or near real-time analytics. This is where it happens. And all you can do, you can go as low as 1 minute refresh. You can see that. Or you can go as far as 50 minutes refresh time. If you want more, you can actually say, no, I want my refresh to be. You can go and say, I want my refresh to be every 5 hours since I don't have it here. Or you can say, I want it to be every 7 hours. So you create what you want here, but you are also restricted with what is here. For hours, between 1 and 12. For minutes, it's between 1 and 50. But in this order, 1, 2, 3, up to 5, they will have 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 50. You can't actually create your own time. It has to be the ones given here. So guys, that's how easy it is. When you have set anything, when you have picked up anything, assuming we want our data set to refresh every 15 minutes. You select 15 minutes and you set data fresh to 15 minutes. And every 15 minutes, Looker Studio will refresh and try to load data from BigQuery and maintain the freshness of your data. With this, you can be sure of real-time analytics in your reports. Okay, so let's move to the next one. We have done customer from CSV. We have done Home Health Agencies 2014 from BigQuery. Let's pick the next from GA4, Google Analytics 4. So I'll click on it. Again, the default time is 12 hours. However, we can change what we want. When you notice here, we have only 3 different time refresh interval given to us. We have every hour, we have every 4 hours, and every 12 hours. Depending on what you want, depending on how real you want it, this is all you can do. You can't do more than this. If you want something much more real from your Google Analytics, then you have to create that sync from Google Analytics into BigQuery and then bring it in to Looker Studio. However, this is kind of okay. 3 different refresh interval is quite okay. Otherwise, you can come in and refresh it manually. So if I say I want every 4 hours, so I just click 4 hours and set it. Remember, if you feel you are not happy with the hours, you can actually do it manually. You can refresh your data manually. So let's move on to the next one. That is it for Google Analytics. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is supply chain. You remember we connected this supply chain from our Google Sheets. Again, so for Google Sheet, we have 15 minutes default time. All right, so aside the 15 minutes, we also can have every hour, every 4 hours, and every 12 hours for you to refresh. So if I say I want every hour, I just select it and click here, and it will refresh every hour. I don't need to do anything. Looker Studio will handle all my data refresh. Let's face it, these things are purely dependent on the business rules for the company. So if there is need for the freshness of the data to be maintained every hour or every 30 minutes, then you will have to set it. If you have a custom time refresh that you're interested in, then I would strongly recommend that you use Google BigQuery. But do know that for every refresh you perform, Google BigQuery is going to charge you. Google is going to charge you for every refresh, except you use caching. Caching is something we will discuss in subsequent video. That is it about data freshness in Looker Studio. If you get value from this video, please consider subscribing. If you have not subscribed, please give this video a thumbs up, share it to your friends. To my returning subscribers, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for always having me at heart. All right, see you next time. Thank you.